He's talked about forming a fighters union. You've heard this before.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to the possibility of a fighters union?
Good luck to you. You know what I mean? The fighting business is so different. This is an individual sport. This isn't a team sport. It's completely different. And let me tell you what, these fighters have managers for one fight and they fire them and then they're on to the next guy. And it's a lot of crazy stuff goes on in this business. I just, but at the end of the day, do I care about a union? I got to negotiate with somebody. A union wouldn't be my problem. The union would be the fighter's problem.
Right, but from a fighter's perspective, is there any downside? Like this same guy, Boris, would argue that, look at the numbers, look at your league. It matches up with these other big sports leagues, and they all have unions. Is there any downside to the fighter to be unionized?
Unions don't necessarily make things better. You know what I mean? Careful what you wish for.
So it sounds like you're not a big fan of unions.
I could care either way. Listen, I could care less. If that's whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'll tell you, we got a little bit of a slow news day around here, Joel. The biggest news coming out is that Conor McGregor went back before the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they reduced his fine. Remember when he got a $150,000 fine and he was all upset for throwing that bottle? They've reduced it to $25,000. Somebody in the media called that a slap on the wrist. I don't know when $25,000 became a slap on the wrist. But at any rate, they got some resolution. I think he will pay that fine. He was refusing to pay the $150,000 fine, which just means he can't go back to Nevada. And that might even be able to follow him. They might even be able to get a judgment and follow him around to some other state. I don't really know how that works, though I trust they can. But at any rate, $25,000. I'll tell you this, though. None of that was really the point as much as I like the throw in the bottle thing. I thought it was funny when they took to throwing bottles at one another. Where it wasn't funny is out of camera shot from my computer where I watched that, is apparently one of those bottles hit a kid. And so now the gig is up. They weren't just air balls or lobbed towards the Diaz brothers. Apparently it hit a kid. That's what the problem was.
Well, not the bottle. The bottle's not going to hurt anybody. It was the can of Monster that nipped the kid. Or maybe the bottle. I don't know. But I tell you this, why do people that have very little money or no money think that people with a bunch of money can just pay whatever?
Yeah, slap on the wrist, somebody calls it.
It's $25,000.
Yeah, a fine is not a slap on the wrist.
That's 2.5 stacks of high society, baby.
Yeah.
That's a little trip to Vegas.
25 dimes. That's gangster talk for $25,000.
Yeah, buddy.
So anyway, that was kind of the news that came out today, but I did think, first off, I thought it was good theater. You can't hit the kid. And then you just made a point that the can would hurt him, but the bottle wouldn't. If it hits a kid, the gig is up. All of a sudden, somebody has to get involved. I'm not sure anybody even gets involved for the bottle throwing. I'm not sure they don't say the same thing I did, which is it was funny. And the people that were up on stage with Conor were laughing. I mean, there was some good theater to that.
Hold on. Listen, if you are at a Conor McGregor Nate Diaz fight, you're one of two people. You're a lunatic Irish fan, or you're the 209. Okay? They don't care if they get hit with the bottles. Oh, what, he got hit with the bottle. That guy's like, I got hit with the bottle. Give the kid 25 dimes. Go find that kid and give the 25 dimes to the kid.
Give the kid the bottle and sign it. The kid would probably think that was cool. But I'm just saying, if you are a commission and a kid gets hit, the gig is up. Something has to be done, and something was.
Hey, or we're in Vegas. Let's skin it. Let's skin that 25. Let's flip it on a card. Let's skin it one time. We get that 25 and it's 50. You keep your 25. We lose it. It goes to the house. We're in Vegas, baby. You don't need Conor's loot.
All right. Onward and upward. You've got some notes. Let's get into it.
I don't have no notes. What are we going to talk about?
Why do you bring in those stack of papers and then I throw to you that you've got notes and then it turns out you don't have notes? What's with the stack of papers?
This is an untrue statement. I walked up here with you in this building with this bottle and this phone.
Oh, these aren't even your papers.
Yes, I said, hey, brother, can you get me some paper? And I said, well, okay, what are we going to do today? People think we just make a show out of the thin air. And it is fun yelling and screaming at each other. Oh, it's a ball. But sometimes We can't do it.
I still don't know what's happening. You have no notes, or is this a joke?
I have some notes.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. I just said, what are your notes?
Do you have an idea?
No, I want to know what's on your notes that you just denied having, and now you're saying you do have.
You said stack of notes. There's a stack of paper, and there's
a page of notes.
9 words.
I stand corrected. Read those 9 words.
Vanderlei fight.
Me. Vanderlei is fighting with me.
Okay. Would you like to expand on that, or can you?
Yeah, no, I can. So here's what's going on. And I've told you about this on the show before, that Bellator can keep a secret. And the way they keep it is they don't tell anybody. So I got put in that same spot sometime last week. Let's call it Friday. If I'm wrong, it's Thursday. But sometime last week, I get a contract sent over from Coker. And it is to fight in New York on June 24th at 205 pounds. But it does not say my opponent. Now, normally that would be a huge red flag. But, Joel, I've told you this. I was armed with the information that both King Mo shared with me when he had the announcement of his Rampage fight, and what Mitrione shared with me when he had his Fedor fight, which is this is how Bellator signed them so that they could have this big ta-da moment. They don't bring anybody in on it. So, putting those dots together, okay, it's going to be Vanderlei. And I am going to be part of the announce team for King Mo versus Rampage. So I thought, okay, it's going to be Rampage, and they're going to bring Vanderlei out down the ramp at that show, and that's where they're going to inform me, and we're going to make this announcement. But I'm smarter than the average guy, and I've pieced this thing together. Well, no, that wasn't the case. All of a sudden, they put a press release out. I found out about this fight officially that it was Vanderlei. And I had plenty of clues that it would be Vanderlei, but I did not know it would be Vanderlei. I found out, I came out of practice, was it Monday? And Luke Thomas had sent me a text message. He wanted to talk about the announcement that I was fighting Vanderlei. And I wrote him back and said, is there an announcement that I'm fighting Vanderlei? I hadn't been to the computers or anything else. I was in a workout room. And Luke's like, yeah, Bellator just broke this news. You guys are fighting, and it's on pay-per-view. It's like, okay, Luke, let's start from the beginning because I don't know. It was a cool moment for me. I liked finding out that way. Luke thought I was putting him on. He's like, oh, come on, you must have known. It's like, no, I didn't have time to tell him this whole story of, no, it was a blank contract, and this is kind of how they do it. I didn't tell him any of this, but I did have a moment like that. I was at lunch with Roger Pollock. I'm going way back to 2013, and I wanted to visit with Roger. I hadn't seen him in a while. So I didn't take my phone. I'm like most people with a phone, right? What do they call these? Crackberry? I mean, I know it's an iPhone, but right, Crackberry because you're addicted to it. And so I didn't take my phone because I'm hooked on it. I wanted Roger to have my attention and we could catch up. So I get back to my car, and Kevin Iole had been lighting me up. And so I called him, and he says, what about you doing The Ultimate Fighter? And he's the one that told me. He said, yeah, you're doing The Ultimate Fighter, and then you're fighting John Jones for the World Championship. I didn't know any of this. Kevin's the one that had told me. So I had that same kind of moment with Luke. The only piece that I had wrong, and I was pretty close to putting this together, but the only piece I had wrong is they had announced it as opposed to doing like a surprise reveal at the Mo Rampage fight, which is what I thought would happen.
I'm privy to a lot of stuff. This is the first time I've heard all this news all week, and this is the first time that I can say, okay, if you said it on air, then it's real. Then it's real. I have a question for you, and it's hard to ask you a question that I don't already know, that I don't know the answer to. Randy was like that. I try to figure out something. Randy's coming on the show. Try to ask him a question that I don't know about. I believe, and I'm probably right, this is the first time in 50 fights that you've had that this is personal.
Yeah, I can't remember another time. I can't think of anybody I would rather fight. I cannot think of another time that it was so personal. With Anderson, it became personal, but I created a lot of that. I didn't know Anderson. I just decided I didn't like Anderson. I decided I didn't like the pink T-shirts and the earrings and the crooked hat, but I didn't know him. I know Vanderlei.
Well, plus he was the one that you had to go after. He was on the top of the heap.
Yeah, there was all that stuff, and a lot of it in the reality afterwards, when I could look back on it and go, well, I never really had a problem with him. I didn't even know him. I just decided I didn't like him. So it was real for me, But the truth was, I didn't know him. I know Vandalay. I spent time with Vandalay. I did the Ultimate Fighter with Vandalay. I had a street fight with Vandalay. I had him try to start a separate street fight, which I am happy to give him. I will fight Vandalay Silva the very next time I see Vandalay Silva, and that is not tough talk. I have told them, just keep us apart. Just keep us. It's not going to go because I can't trust him. I can't do a face-to-face interview with him because I can't trust him. It's a matter of I have to protect myself. He's attacked me physically twice now, 3 times if you want to count the time he tried to turn into something physical. I can't trust him, and I'm not going to wait. You know, my father didn't tell me, like everybody else's dad, you can defend yourself as long as the guy throws the first punch. My dad didn't teach me like that. He told me the fight starts as soon as the guy's within arm's reach. If this guy has bad intentions and he steps within arm's reach, the fight has begun. And I broke that rule one time with Vandalay, and he pushed me. And I told my father-in-law that night, I will not make that mistake again. And I didn't. The next time he got within arm's reach, we had to fight.
Now, I haven't been in a lot of street fights. I mean, not a ton. Probably maybe 10 in my life. That's not a lot for, a roughneck. And, but I've seen a lot of fighters. A lot of wrestlers, and I think you were kind of one of those wrestlers in college that the fight started when somebody said, let's fight, and you blast them with a double. I had a friend back home, Curdy Bennett, and he was the toughest kid in the world to everybody because as soon as somebody said, let's fight, he was slugging somebody in the head. And people don't know how to fight. So you had mentioned that the fight starts when they come within hand reach, several years ago, and I was like, that is true.
Yeah, that is true. There is. I don't know where that let them throw the first punch. I mean, I guess the law likes that, but I don't understand. If you feel threatened, and I'm not talking about some kind of barbaric act here and acting like you're not house trained and looking for trouble. I'm talking about when trouble comes and finds you, and the guy steps within arm's reach. The fight has begun, and he started it, and you have the right to protect yourself. I think that my dad gave me good advice.